When Nick Saban decided to step down as Alabama's head coach, somebody had to pick up the mantle as the king of college football. And naturally, the frontrunner was Kirby Smart. He's won 2 national titles in the last 3 years, countless number 1 recruiting classes, and basically has turned Athens into Tuscaloosa 2.0, kind of like Nick did back in the early 2010s. But the question turns to now, who falls in line at 2 through 10? Is it an up-and-comer? Is it a guy that's been around the block and maybe at a new school? Is it somebody that you haven't really thought of, but then you look at the results and go, yeah, they're doing a damn good job? But one name that comes up more often than not is Dabo Swinney at Clemson. Is he still a top 5 coach heading into 2024? Let's go ahead and discuss. But if you're new here, welcome on into the channel, people. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and comment down below. Is Dabo Swinney still a top 5 coach in your mind headed into 2024? Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of pros, college football aficionados, and just fans of the sport, Clemson fans especially, about this channel, because we're on the race to become the #1 YouTube show talking about our favorite sport every single day. Make sure that you follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That way, conversations surrounding our favorite sport never have to stop flowing. And if you want a question answered live on air, slide in the DMs or email me at colethompsonwriting@gmail.com. So is Dabo Swinney still a top 5 coach in college football going into 2024? This is a lot tougher of a question than people want to give credit to. Because on paper, when you look at the production, when you look at the win totals, when you look at the accolades, there's no second guessing that Swinney belongs still at the very forefront of all these conversations. He's one of 3 active coaches to win a national title. The other 2, Mac Brown at UNC and Kirby Smart. He's also won countless ACC titles, and he's also been a very prominent name in the recruiting trail. But that was of the past. And we live in a society where it's about the here and now. Everybody is focusing in on what is today. What do we have at our disposal right now? And it's hard to argue that he is. Because if you see the way that coaches have made changes over the last few years, especially when it comes to the transfer portal and the NIL collectives, some are embracing them beyond belief. Lane Kiffin is a perfect epitome about what the future of college football looks like. He's still out there recruiting. He's still trying to bring in the most he's still trying to bring in the most 4 stars and 5 stars that he can to Oxford. But he also realizes the best way to build a roster for the long haul is to add in players via the portal who are proven commodities that maybe just need a fresh start, and also retain players by making sure that the Grove Collective is spending money. Dabo Swinney's not doing that. Dabo Swinney is saying that the NIL world is simply just another mechanism that's destroying our sport, which in a sense he is right, but at the same time, he's not embracing the transfer portal. And in years past, that was fine. In years past, you would also see a lot of players not care about money or certain brands. They want to be a part of a winning culture, and they want to be a part of something special, where they knew that national championships were going to come easy, where they knew that they would always make a trip to that extra weekend in early December, and they would be a hot name in the college football playoff. And if they didn't go to the college football playoff, they would go to a pretty prominent bowl game and probably bolster their draft stock enough to where, yeah, maybe they're a day 2 player on paper, but that brand, that Tiger Paw logo, carries a lot of weight. And that's not really the case anymore. And everything else has taken a step back. As more players enter the portal, more players get an opportunity to get a fresh start. Well, Swinney thinks that if you weren't good enough to play for Clemson at the first time, or better yet, strike that, if Clemson wasn't on your radar the first time, why should we put you on our radar the second time? The NIL collective is still growing, and there's a sense that he's embraced it, but at the same time, how much is he embracing it? If there's a kid that says, I will come play for you for $3 million, and another team that says, I'll pay you $3 million, and Dabo says, best of luck with your other university. We'll show you out on the field every single Saturday. He's going to take that money and he's going to run. And so Swinney right now has not been willing to adapt. He's not been willing to make the necessary changes as college football continues to grow and elevate, that now puts a damper on everything in the industry. And that's a problem. That is a massive problem. In fact, you could argue that right now, that is the one thing holding Clemson back. And Clemson has a standard. Clemson's always had a standard. Even before Dabo Swinney got there, you remember when he took over back in 2010, he took over because there was a standard and it wasn't being met by Terry Bowden. I mean, it wasn't being met by Bowden. So that was the case. And now he's got to meet it. It's one of those things where you have to understand this is a coach and this is an institution. that has shown you time and time again that we can reach the pinnacle goal. We can reach the pipeline dream. We can be the best in all of college football. But we can only do so if we're willing to adapt or die. And so many coaches in the past have had to learn this harsh reality, including at the NFL level and most recently in college football, Jimbo Fisher. Fisher was paid over $77 million not to reside in College Station because he wasn't willing to relinquish the play calling. And eventually, when he finally did, you hear the rumors and the speculation behind closed doors that Bobby Petrino was still hesitant when it came to the play calling. So that led to some concern. If you're not willing to make changes, you're going to be shown the door pretty quickly. And especially at a major institution like Clemson, you have to hit every criteria to hang around. Because now in the ACC, there's growth, there's adaptability. You're watching as programs are no longer playing second fiddle to the Tigers. In fact, they're pushing the Tigers down a little bit to where they're still tier one, but they're more so tier one with an inclination that maybe tier two for a year might be the wake-up call that they deserve. Miami, they're embracing the transfer portal. They're embracing NIL. They're embracing change when it comes to paying players and, more importantly, building offenses that are more dynamic. You also look at a team like Florida State, fresh off of an undefeated regular season, and they've been utilizing the transfer portal and the NIL collective. They're getting better on offense. They're getting better on defense. They're spending money to bring in the right assistant coaches, and Mike Norvell is going outside the grain a little bit to make sure that it's the proper coaches, not just coaches he feels comfortable with. UNC has always been a team that finds their way to 8-4. You look at NC State, they find their way to 8-4. They utilize the transfer portal. Louisville last year was arguably the biggest surprise team in college football that nobody talked about. Like, everyone realized, oh, Louisville's winning games, and they're winning games, and they're winning games, and oh my God, now they're a top 10 team. That's because they used the portal. That's because they embraced NIL. That's because they were willing to make the necessary changes to better their opportunities to go to the college football playoff. Dabo Swinney is still a top 5 coach, in my opinion, simply based off of merit. But that line is literally on its axis. Imagine like when you're walking across a frozen lake and you feel that first crack. That is your warning sign. It is about to get razor thin. And once you go under, it's hard to come back up. And it's really hard to reassess yourself. And it's even harder to pull yourself out of a dire situation. Swinney's made some moves, and I think that we can go ahead and appreciate that over the last 2 years, he's at least done things differently when it comes to his coaching staff. He went out and he hired Chris Rump for his defensive line coach. He went out and he hired Matt Luke for an offensive line coach. 2 marquee names in college football that absolutely deserve a lot of credit for what they've done, bettering and bolstering their sides of the football. And you went in the trenches, so they're good hires. He also went out, instead of promoting internally with an offensive coordinator, brought in the Burroughs Award winner in Garrett Riley. And now it's another year with Cade Klubnik learning the offense and being able to better that. But he doesn't have a number 1 wide receiver. And he could, but he just chooses not to go into the transfer portal. He doesn't have a stable run game now with Will Shipley gone, but he could if he utilized the transfer portal. And the same thing can be said about linebackers, safeties, defensive backs. It's still going to be a good team. It's going to be an 8-4 team. 8-4 is immediately, I think, a clear-cut indication of what Clemson should be this year in terms of their floor. But that's not the standard at Clemson. That's not what we envision the Tigers when they come running down and touch Howard's Rock from the mountaintops and get ready to do battle in Death Valley. That's not the version of Clemson football that we have seen over the last decade. And it's the standard that was set well in advance before Dabo Swinney got there, but was elevated because of the success of Swinney. So to me, he's a top 5 coach. Until proven otherwise, he's a top 5 coach. You can't put guys who haven't done enough ahead of him. Steve Sarkisian, love him to death. Think he's a great coach on the come up. I still haven't seen a national championship. Seen a college football playoff appearance. Dabo Swinney's got a handful of those. I like Dan Lanning. Lanning, I think, is going to terrorize the Big Ten. And the fact that he knows how to recruit all across the country, including in California, plus with now the Big Ten brand logo attached to their name and Nike pays to power the deal, they're going to be good. Not top 5 yet. I think when you look at other guys that are still on the come up, maybe like you would say a Lance Leipold, now finding success at Kansas, being able to reinvent programs. Ryan Day, really solid coach that many people say was born on third base, but he's been to the college football playoff. He just hasn't been able to get past Michigan. They're all still in the same running. In fact, you could probably make an argument that there's 2 coaches right now with the sustainability ahead of a guy like Dabo Swinney. One is Brian Kelly, just the sheer fact that he's been to a national championship and he's been able to win at every single university he's been at. He's the second winningest coach in college football, and he's been willing to adapt. And Kyle Whittingham out of Utah, because he's the most consistent coach that never gets brought up in conversation. And outside of that, when you look at accolades, attributes, the ability to win in dire situations and get the big victory, that's who's probably ahead of him alongside Kirby Smart. But a change doesn't come in the next few years if you're not seeing more of an abrasiveness to what is the future of college football. Dabo Swinney is going to be like all the dinosaurs, extinct, and probably not looking for a job anytime soon. Make sure that you like the video, hit the comment section down below. Is Dabo Swinney still a top 5 coach in college football? What needs to change in Death Valley for 2024 to guarantee he does not move down the pecking order behind the Dan Lannings, the Lane Kiffins, and the Steve Sarkisians of the world? Follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson, Twitter, text, Instagram, TikTok. We got you covered everywhere you want to be. And make sure that to keep up with everything that we're doing, that you also slide in the DMs, email me at ColeThompsonWriting@gmail.com, and tell your friends and family, mortal enemies, best of bros, and Clemson fans everywhere about this channel. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks, later.